right, folks, welcome to another edition of Play Branson, where you get to know Branson's entertainers better. And we have on our show today, for the first time ever, Dan Britton. And Dan is the owner, the producer, singer at Pierce Arrow. And of course, they have lots of shows at Pierce Arrow, but he's been in this business for a long, long time. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing his history and talking about what is going on over at the Pierce Arrow Theater this year. And of course, you may already know this, but at one point in time, Dan was the record holder for the lowest bass note ever sung. And so that's kind of one of his claims to fame, so to say. You know what? It's the middle of May. Schools are about to get out, and you guys are probably saying, where should you go on vacation? Branson. It's the perfect place. If you haven't been, you gotta come. There's no other place like it in the entire country. Branson is open. We're ready to serve you. We're ready to have you here. Our entertainers are here to entertain you. It's time to come back to live entertainment. And so come on, we'll take good care of you here in Branson, Missouri. Stay tuned. We're going to be back in just a minute with Dan Britton.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to Play Branson, and for the first time ever on the show, we have Mr. Dan Britton, the legend. And so it's
in my own mind.
It's good to have you here. Like, there are people that sometimes it takes me years to get people on the show, and it's only because I ran into you at Home Depot that you're here.
Right.
And so you showed up, and so I'm excited that you're here because you've been very influential in this community. You've been here a long time, and so I want you to take people back. And how did you get into this business and kind of your steps along the way? Because I know you have a lot of history.
Oh, it's a long history. I'm in this business by default, but I grew up with 6 brothers and sisters, and I heard nothing but gospel music until I was 14, Southern gospel. So we sang that a little bit, and Mom had us singing when we were 3, 4, 5 at ladies' auxiliary clubs and things like that. And from there, we thought my brothers, there's 4 of us and then 2 girls, decided we'd be the next Oak Ridge Boys. So we traveled around playing casinos and nightclubs, and we did pretty well up in North Dakota. And my coldest story in Bismarck, what was it, 32 below zero.
Wow.
96 below zero wind chill.
Wow.
You couldn't be out for more than 20 seconds.
So what were you called then?
The Britton Brothers.
The Britton Brothers.
We were all brothers, yeah.
Okay.
So we did that for a while. We had fun there. Actually, one of our managers was Lamar Fike. He was one of the Memphis Mafia for Elvis Presley, and was hired to watch over Priscilla in Germany when Elvis was in the military there. So Lamar was one of our managers. But traveled for 10 years with my brothers, playing casinos. And after that, I decided, and I told my brothers on the bus one night, I said, guys, at the end of this year, I said, I'm going to quit. I said, I'm tired of the road. I need to have a more stable life. And I got a phone call from a group here that had heard me. We sang here for 2 weeks at something called the Wildwood Flower.
Yes, that's, that was owned by
Bill Daly.
Bill Daly, yeah.
We sang there for 2 weeks, and this group called Branson was a quartet, and Bill Daly had them hired. And they were looking for a bass singer. So they heard that I was leaving my brothers and gonna quit singing. And they called me and said, you can come to Branson and not travel. They said, we don't travel when you work in Branson. I said, okay, well, you have my attention. So I came down here, and they were called Branson. We changed our name to the Branson Brothers.
Right.
Then we got a record deal with Capitol Records. Then we got a record deal with Warner Brothers Records as things transpired. And then after a while, we sang at Silver Dollar City on Sunday nights and 7 days a week. Anyway, so all this just throughout. In the meantime, I'm having 3 babies with my wife, and I think I'm living high on the hog, but I'm really not. But I was driving a 30-year-old El Camino, all rested, but I had a big crowd at Silver Dollar City.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after that group broke up, I went to work for a wonderful man. His name's Glenn Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? Grand Country Square now. And I worked with Glenn as his right-hand man for about 6 years, I think. Wonderful family and wonderful business. So anyway, I decided one day that I would try to go out on my own. And this theater became available. And I'll try to make this story really quick. This is my favorite story in life. Now, if you're not a Christian, you're not going to like it. But
we offend everybody equally, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just my belief, okay?
That's fine.
And this is the truth. And I tell this to my dearest friends. And so this theater comes up for sale. And I grew up so poor that I had to borrow $400 to move to Branson with my wife. And when I was a kid, Mom and Dad couldn't afford 86 cents a week for our lunch at school. So I took a brown paper bag to school. So that's the way I grew up, really poor. This theater came for sale in Branson. And it's called the Positive Country Theater.
That's right.
And wonderful Christian people from California. And they wanted to sell it so bad. And I walked around it and I said to myself, oh, you could never do something like this. Well, I told my big brother in Indiana about this, who I'm very close to, and he said, I wish I could help you. And I said, no, I'm just thinking out loud. He called me in a week and he said, now, are you serious? You going double if I found the investors? I said, yeah, we found the investors, lo and behold. And then the investors started coming out of the woodwork. My pastor at the time wanted to invest. My music minister wanted to invest. My kid's grandpa wanted to invest. All of a sudden, this poor guy had more money available, and my home appraised. I built a new home myself, and it appraised really good, so the bank would loan me money. So my big brother says, what's holding you up? And I said, oh boy, I said, I love my boss, Glenn Robinson. I said, I love my boss, I love my job. I said, I've got 3 little kids. I said, I'm in hog heaven. He said, wow. He said, I think you can do this. And he said, why aren't you moving on it? And this was 20 years ago. And I said, I'm waiting for that black and white billboard with a swoosh that says, just do it, God. And that was kind of my joke to myself.
Yeah.
And I can, so he called me up in a few weeks. He said, man, why aren't you doing this? And I said, I haven't seen my billboard yet. So long story short, I was doing marketing and things for Glenn. And we were about to print 300,000 or 400,000 brochures with my picture on it. And I was going on vacation, and I just didn't feel right about letting that happen if I was going to leave. So I sat down with Glenn, and I told him I'm thinking about leaving, and we talked about all this, and he discouraged me because we had such a great relationship. And I went back right before the show on Saturday night, and I said, I'm going to stay. I said, you treat me like a son. And he said, good call. So I got in the car in the minivan with my wife and 3 kids, and we headed to Indiana to see Mom and Pop. And in our house, there's no dice, no cards, there's no gambling, there's no thinking outside of the box. And they said, Danny, we prayed about this, and we felt it was your calling. Talked to my big brother, and he said, dude, I'm really sorry to hear you're not doing this. I said, well, never saw my billboard. And I said, I'm just in a good zone. So I drove back home. As we come through St. Louis from Indiana, lo and behold, there's a black and white billboard. And it says, would you make an attempt for me if you knew you would not fail? Jesus. And that's all it said. It didn't say Church of Latter-day Saints. It didn't say Baptist. I looked at my wife and I said, did you see that? And she said, yeah. I said, that's my billboard. I went home the next day and I quit.
And that's how Pierce Arrow got started.
That's how Pierce Arrow got started.
And so you bought the theater.
I bought the theater, and I don't want to bore you with too many stories, but the thing, I got $500,000 up front. I'm talking very personal now with you. The cameras aren't on, are they?
They are. Well, they are. They are.
Okay, so anyway, we got $500,000 up front from the investors, and we put $250,000 down. And then we had and this is for all you folks that want to start your own theater. This is what it takes 20 years ago. So we put $250,000 down, and I spent $250,000 with payroll and some wardrobe and things. Within a few months, I had $6,000 left out of $500,000. That's it.
Wow.
And, crowds were minimal. It was a brand new show. And y'all are going to think I'm a preacher here before I'm done. So I talked to my wife about it, and she gets up and she takes our kids to school. She drives them to school every day in Branson. And I got up one day, and of course, there's a lot of stress happening now. And I got on my knees, and I prayed, and I said, God, you told me to do this. I have the faith of a mustard seed. And I said, Lord, you put your foot between my shoulder blades and you pushed. So I need your help now. And lo and behold, if it didn't just go boom and take off and become, I hate to brag, but one of the best shows in town. Our theater's full, and it's all a blessing from God. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And we're going to stop right there, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Folks, welcome back to PlayBranson, and we are here with Dan Britton. If you watched the last segment, you heard about the billboard story. You're not going to get that on stage, and I do want to jump to this year, and you've got some changes at the theater with your shows, and so maybe somebody out there is watching. They've never seen Pierce Arrow, they've never heard of Pierce Arrow, they don't know what any of that is. And so let's talk about your shows and what people can expect this year.
Okay, well, I'll go real fast with how I got the name Pierce Arrow because people ask me about that. We were on Warner Brothers as the Branson Brothers, Warner Brothers Records, and I became friends with the president of Warner Brothers. And I said, I have an idea. If you'll pay for it, I want to put this group together and build this group. So I did, and I sent him some songs that we recorded here in Branson, and he called me up and he said, Dan, this is the best stuff you've ever done. He said, what's the name of the group? And I said, El Dorado? He said, no. He said, I'll call you back. So he called me back in a couple weeks, and the president of Warner Brothers said, how about Pierce Arrow? And I said, okay, yeah, I love it. Wait, I didn't like it. I said, okay. I said, I love that. He said, well, I said, who is he? That's what I said, who is he? And he said, no, that's an old classy car. He said the presidents rode in them. He said they tried to rival the Rolls Royce. I said, okay, cool. He said, have you heard of Diamond Rio? I said, yeah, they're great. He said, that's an old milk truck. He said, same era. I said, I didn't know that. So anyway, so now you have the story about the name and the story about how I ended up with the theater. And over the years, this will be our 21st year. We did our first show at 8 o'clock, May the 22nd in the year 2000.
Wow.
That was our first show. And back then we did a lot of Statler Brothers and Oak Ridge Boys and people like that. And In the last year and 2 years, there's been changes in Branson. And so we've adapted to that. Now we're doing not as much of that stuff. We're doing a lot of our favorite show. We do 2 shows right now. One is called Decades, and we take a little trip through time. You know, we start out with like Under the Boardwalk and stuff like that from 50s and 60s. Then we go into 70s. We do some, it's so much fun. Creedence, Clearwater Revival. We do some stuff like that. Of course, well, I'll tell you about our comedian in a minute. After we do Creedence, I tell a story about ZZ Top. My wife and I went to see ZZ Top in Las Vegas last year, and they still rock. They rock after 50 years on stage. So anyway, they did 16 tons. Who was that? Tennessee Ernie Ford, right? So we come out and we do the Tennessee Ernie Ford version, and then I tell them that little story about Vegas, and we do the ZZ Top version.
Okay.
And all the way through the show, we give you information. Like, for example, Creedence Clearwater, out of, I think, 14 top 10, never had a #1 song in their whole career. So we give you information like that all the way through the show. It's a blast. We do some Doobie Brothers, of course, and some new country. And our comedian is James Sibley, awarded, Branson's Funniest, and a writer for Saturday Night Live, a stand-up comedian. He's fantastic. People love James. So we have that going on. We're for people that don't know, we're a vocal group, a quartet, and with a 5-piece band. I went from a 3-piece to 5-piece this year, redoing my stage. It's a little, I don't want to use the word rocking, but it's more, I'm watching my audience.
Well, and we were, in a previous episode, I was talking about the people today that are sitting out in audiences, even if they're older, they really still grew up on rock and roll.
Oh yeah, are you kidding? People, I'm telling you, 85-year-old people are singing the Eagles with us.
Yeah.
They're singing along.
Yeah. And so you've got this Decades show, and you've been doing this now, what, 2 or 3 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Uh-huh.
But this year you're also now doing going back to a country show,
Right.
Cursa Aero Country as well.
Yes, we alternate every other night. One show is Decades, of course, and the other show features country. We do some new country, some old country, and everything in between, but we try to stay in the country vein with country comedy. And I hate to plug, but you can come every other night, and if you want to see the show one night, you can come back the next night for half price.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that we do. But with that being said, they're completely different clothes, different jokes, same singers.
Yeah.
It's like watching Jaws 1 and Jaws 2.
Well, I think it's actually a pretty good marketing concept if you think about it.
It works.
It can get people to come more than once.
That, and we make friends. They saw us the first night. The next night, we take pictures with folks, and it's just a nice environment. I love my little theater. We seat just shy of 1,000 people. It's very intimate for the comedy. I just love it to death.
Yeah. Now, I noticed last time I went to the show, you had a new entertainer on stage playing in the background, and first time I'd seen him there, but I think you had worked with him in the past, and that's Mr. Ponder.
Jimmy Ponder was with me on Warner Brothers Records.
Yeah.
In a group called the Branson Brothers. Jimmy's there. We just got a new piano player, Jim Garstang, who was Mel Tillis's vocal and band director and keyboard player for 32 years.
Wow.
And he's on stage with us now too.
Okay. So
we've upgraded.
I've noticed there's been some changes there.
Right.
And of course, over the years, you've had different comedians, and you've had, different people that have cycled through the show, and that's part of show business.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And some of those people are now out of the business, and some of them are in other shows. So you've, and so. I think back to the days when you had Paul Harris was with you for a while.
Yeah.
Now he's not even in town anymore, but
one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, Paul Harris.
Yeah.
He lives in Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
dear friend, and he's doing well with a group called the Cleverleys.
Yep. So show times, you're primarily, is it Monday through Saturday at 8:00? Is that right?
Boy, don't get me going. Normally I do things that are simple. This year I really, with COVID and everything, I thought I would follow Silver Dollar City's schedule, And that's so confusing.
Yeah.
So I think right now we're basically Thursday through Sunday-ish, but that's only for a couple more weeks. And then we go, well, I think the next few weeks I'll do it Sunday night. But my normal week is Monday through Saturday.
Right.
But if you'll check the schedule, we're doing the COVID schedule right now.
Yeah.
It's more of a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And hopefully soon people will be back to more normal. So,
Oh, yeah. I know we're headed that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully, well, we have new leadership in the city, and hopefully things will change a little bit, and it'll get,
I'm excited about that.
you know, and what I tell people is, like, you know what, we've been in COVID for over a year, and people are smart enough to know what they need to do in their own lives.
I agree.
And we got to treat people like they're intelligent people. And,
I think so too. I couldn't agree more.
And I know COVID was extremely tough for the entertainment industry, and so our thing we've been trying to tell people is come back to Branson and, you know, come be entertained, and so we're encouraging people to do that.
And Chris, it is happening. I mean, traffic is out there.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
and
good.
attitudes are fresh.
Yep.
Everybody's so tired of staying home.
Yep. So, folks, if you haven't never been to the Pierce Arrow Theater, it is over on Shepherd of the Hills Expressway, just down the street from the Best Western Music Capital Inn, Shoji Tabuchi's in that area. Pierce Arrow's been there for you've been there in that theater for over 20 years now, and you're going to laugh at this show. You're going to have lots of fun. You're going to hear lots of hits. And, you know, I was at your show one time, and there was this guy in front of me, and this is when it was decades, and I remember the guy head bobbing. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay to head bob in Branson. and sometimes you'll see people swaying, and you know, it's all about the feeling of the music.
Just don't take a knee.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, folks, we'll be back in a moment just to wrap the show up. Thank you. Hey folks, we're wrapping up the show. We want to thank you so much for watching. Now there's some great things coming up in Branson that I do want to tell you about. And in fact, tomorrow, Silver Dollar City opens their Bluegrass and Barbecue here in the middle of May festival. And that will run for a couple weeks. And then they go to their summer concert series on June 4th and 5th. And then there's some great bands coming up out at Silver Dollar City. I do want to mention, I want to give you time to prepare and plan for him. On June 11th, Mac Brock, and he does a lot of worship music. And on June 12th, Vertical Worship will be there. And you've heard them. If you listen to Christian music, you've heard a lot of Vertical Worship on the radio stations being played. And then later this summer, in the middle of summer, July 24th, one of the most influential people in Christian music world, Chris Tomlin, will be back in Branson at Silver Dollar City. I think he was supposed to come, and COVID happened, and now he's coming back. And so we're really excited about those shows coming up. Once again, Bluegrass and Barbecue runs May 14th through May 31st, so check that out as well. Here's the deal. If you need help planning your entire vacation, you're not sure what you're doing, who to help you, check out the folks at ibranson.com. You can book online, or you can call them at 877-ENTERTAIN. Also, if you have somebody you'd like to see on the Play Branson show, let us know. Get the message to us. You can go to facebook.com/PlayBranson, and you can message us and let us know. Did you know we also have a website called PlayBranson.com, and you can go back and look at a lot of our episodes on that website. We also have a YouTube channel. We are now up to 190 episodes, so we thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting us, and we'll see you next week here on Play Branson.